Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. My buddy Austin was having a good time dancing up on the bima, and I have to tell you, knowing the journey that Austin and his family have been on, there is no more beautiful sight than seeing you, my man, dance and play air basketball and make that three-pointer over my head. It makes me so proud to see you, and it makes me so grateful to God who brought miracles to you and to your family. And it's a moment where we say, Zeh hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismechavo. This is a day that God has created. May you always dance, may you always take shots, and may we always celebrate your movement and your joy, always. Amen. So, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It was told that during the time before the Exodus, when the plagues fell upon the Egyptian people, that each plague got a little worse. Dam, the first plague of blood, is enough to freak me out. I would probably get nauseous, queasy, and pass out. Tzvardeya, I hate frogs. Kinim, my kids once had lice at camp 200 miles away and my head was itching. All of them got progressively worse. And the penultimate, meaning the second to last, was a strange plague that we would say, what's so bad about this? Choshech, darkness. What's so bad about darkness? We have headlights. We have lamps, we have kerosene, we have matches. What's so bad about darkness? Well, the commentators of the Torah tell us unequivocally that this was not an ordinary darkness. This is darkness that firefighters are trained in. A darkness that the smoke is so thick that you can't see your hand in front of your face. And the real punishment of the plague was that it was so dark that you couldn't see your neighbor. You couldn't recognize your partner's face. You couldn't put your hand on your children's head for being unable to find it, to offer them a blessing. It was a sense of darkness that created the cessation of community. Because when you cannot see one another, you can't be with one another. Interestingly, community is a foundation for our people, and I would argue this moment in time has proven that it is a reflex for humanity. We crave people. We crave to be near people. We don't want to be isolated. We want to be around others. And we strive more and more to be closer, and this moment might push that fact even further. One of my favorite parts of the Seder are the four sons. Now, it was one of my favorite parts because I am one of four sons. My parents had four boys. And each of them have a role. There is Chacham, the wise son, the Rasha, the wicked son, the Tam, the simple child, Vishe'eno Yodea Lishol, the one who doesn't even know how to ask a question. Now, what's interesting about these four children is that the Rasha, the wicked child, not the stupid child, not the ignoramus child, the wicked child. What is it that qualifies that child for being wicked? What makes a person so terrible, so bad, that we call them kafar bi'ikar, we call them a heretic. We say they have no place amongst us and with our people and with our future. What is it? When they choose to distance themselves from community. Because the Rasha says, what are these laws that you keep, inferring you and not me? As if to say, you might be part of a people, you might be part of a community, but I'm not a part of it. I want nothing to do with you and your people. I am myself. I am isolated. I am alone. I don't want to be part of a greater whole. That, the tradition tells us, is what's considered wicked. That is what is considered to be wrong by being away and isolated from the other. That is what earns the title kafar bi'ikar, a heretic, someone who doesn't deserve an inheritance of our people. This idea of isolation, of darkness, of being far away, was conceived much earlier than COVID-19. Robert Putnam, who is a professor of sociology at Harvard University, wrote a book that came out in the year 2000, and the title of this sociological study was called Bowling Alone. And I have preached many times on this bima about the impact and importance of this book, but it has become quite relevant again. You see, the premise of Putnam's book is that more people in the year 2000 and a few years before were bowling than ever before in the history of the game. However, people were no longer bowling in leagues. In the 60s, and the 70s, and the 80s, people were part of bowling leagues. And those leagues created small micro-communities, and people would get together to be part of the league. But today, bowling is no longer happening in leagues as a whole. People go with a friend or two on a particular night or for a party, and they go to the bowling alley, but league bowling is gone. What about exercise? If we look historically, people are exercising more today than ever before in history. But the number one form of exercise is walking, and it's walking alone. Today, the greatest form of exercise is Peloton. Why? Maybe that's not scientific, the greatest form, because it morphs together the individuality you want with a virtual community. You don't have to be around others. Well, there were times in my life when I was exercising much more regularly. And when I did so, spinning was a really important part of my life. I would go to spin classes sometimes twice a day. And if I ever couldn't make the spin class, I would sneak into the studio with the permission of the gym and put on my own music and have my own spin class. The problem is, it never satisfied me. The sweat wasn't the same sweat. The workout wasn't the same workout. I wasn't motivated and driven by the people around me, most of whom I didn't even know. And it reminded us, even in that form of exercise or whether it's bowling, that isolation is never maximized. It doesn't fulfill all of our potential. And Jewish custom feels exactly the same way. In normal circumstances, where there would be no pandemic of COVID-19, we would have a shul full of people. But we would only require 10 Jewish adults to make a quorum of 10, a minyan. Now, any of us are allowed to pray on our own, but to maximize our prayer, to say Devarim B'Kedusha, like the Baruch Hu, the Chatzi Kaddish, the Mourner's Kaddish, you need 10. In many ways, it's like the basketball game that Austin was just playing. You could take a ball and a hoop and play by yourself, and you can be very satisfied. But get one more player, you can play one-on-one. Get two more players, you can play horse. Get three more players, you can play two-on-two, and all the way up to a full-court game. Life is maximized when we are around others and when we can create a sense of community. I've spent a lot of the past few weeks talking to God. Now, I've always been a religious person, but faith has been a very important part of my identity over the last 14 days. I might pray every day, but I don't always get the chance to talk to God. I've been talking to God a lot, and I've been trying to listen to God. And one of the things that I think I might be hearing from God is the opportunity for us to be shaken, to be stirred, and to be brought to a new reality. Maybe, just maybe, it's a time for us to pivot and to see the blessings that will result of COVID-19. Blessing number one, it has defibrillated our world to a place that reminds us of what indeed really is the most important, our health and our family. So often we forget about that, but we realize now, how are our loved ones and how is our health? Everything else is absolutely ancillary. Secondly, our world had become mean. If I saw you and knew you were a supporter of a particular political affiliation, it might cause anger, upset, judgment. Today, I could care less who you vote for or why you vote for them. I only care about your humanity. I only care about your health and your goodness. I only care that you and I together have the opportunity, most literally, to save the world in our actions, regardless of who we voted for, regardless of our political affiliation, regardless if we're from a blue state or a red state, because all 50 states have the same challenge today. And this moment might have defibrillated away the divide of partisanship and the opportunity of unity. This moment as well has also reminded us the incredible value of macro and micro community. So many people have this insatiable thirst now to be near another, to break bread at our favorite restaurants, to go to our gyms and to our workout places with others who we would see and didn't even know their name. And the first thing we're going to ask others when we see them are you okay? Is your family okay? Did you come over or transcend this challenge okay economically, socially, emotionally? Are there things that I can do to help you? That shows our beauty in these moments. That shows our reflex of humanity. The minute we are allowed by our officials to open the doors of this synagogue, I predict that we will be filled shoulder to shoulder in what will be a healthy environment of people who need not only to talk to God, but to see each other. That is what brings us close and gives us hope. Hope is a really important thing. Hope galvanizes us. Hope strengthens us. And while indeed we should be cautious, we should be fearful, we should follow the instructions and rules by our elected officials, our physicians, and those that are giving us assignments during this time, we should never lose a sense of hope. Hope is a flickering light. And if we give hope to another and we share that light and we all hold our candles, then that light will be more powerful than the choshech, than the darkness of this time. It will allow us to see our spouse, our children, our partner, our neighbor, our friend. It will remind us of the things that matter most in our lives, and it will unite us on our common denominators instead of dividing us over these small and simple things that have served as wedges for far too long. I pray that this moment that applies to all of us be a moment that helps us learn how to behave in a better way and take the lessons of this moment and make them apply much longer than what will be 2 weeks or 2 months. Make them apply in a way that we have been taught this lesson of what matters most and what is paramount. Our families, our health, the ability to see one another and to be close. On this Shabbat, may we have those effects, may we feel those blessings, and may we hold that light in the midst of this darkness. May it give us hope, a hope for tomorrow, a hope that brings us back together, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Amen. I invite all of you, please rise, page 184, the Chazan leads us in the Chatzi Kaddish. 184.